G'day guys, welcome back to the Process of Success podcast. I'm here today with one of Australia's brightest cricketers, Will Pucovski. I hope I've said that all right. For those of you that might not know of Will, he's very early in his career. He's only 20 years old. He's played 6 first-class matches with a high score of 188 and 4 List A matches, but he's on the rise and he's going to be someone to really look out for in the future. Enough of cricket. What is the most important thing about Will is he's a Collingwood fan and a big Pendlebury fan, which is he's someone I absolutely love and is a big inspiration for me. So great to hear that. Back onto cricket. To start with, let's sort of go back to the start of your life. Where did you grow up and what's your earliest memory of playing cricket?
So I grew up in Hampton, which is just a nice suburb in the southeast of Melbourne, and I've lived there all my life, and basically got into cricket through Dad. Dad always played and loved it. He played grade cricket in Melbourne and then went and played subbies at Caulfield as well. So he was sort of my main man that got me into cricket, and there's videos of me playing since I was 3 and 4 in the backyard, and then when I was 7 went down to my local club at Hampton United and kicked off from there.
Awesome. So 3 until 7 was in the backyard, and then was it just playing on a Saturday and in Hampton United? Yeah,
so it started just with Saturday morning cricket. I still remember sort of my first few games pretty vividly. So
well, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, so we're down there, and then after a couple of years in the juniors, we started a father-son team. So we had sort of my core group of mates from school, all their dads, along with the kids, all played together on Saturday afternoons. So that's how we sort of got exposed to senior cricket originally.
Awesome. And so your dad got you into it. Is he still a big part of your career?
Yeah, he's massive. So he's a very good sounding board for me. He's pretty realistic with me about where I'm at and with what I'm doing. He was a bowler, funny enough, but sort of his knowledge in that sort of field helps me, I think, and then vice versa, because he reckons he just used to slog and just couldn't stay concentrated, I guess, for long enough periods of time to hang out there. But obviously with the ball, sort of understanding what bowlers are doing and things along those lines are pretty handy.
Awesome. And have you had any other mentors along the way since, apart from your dad?
I think I've had a fair few coaches that have influenced me quite a bit in a positive way. I had Graham Rummans in the 17s for Victoria, who I look upon really fondly, and a lot of other coaches along the way that have been awesome. I had Phil Arnold, who was my first sort of representative coach just in our local comp, and I still sort of run into him around the traps and always enjoy talking to him. But I think also Greg Shippert in recent years has been a big help, and then obviously Andrew McDonald coming into the system with Victoria and Lockie Stevens have helped quite a bit in the last year or two.
Awesome, nice one. Now, at what age did you start getting one-on-one coaching, I suppose, and was that with your dad to start off with, or did you go straight to another coach early on? Or
I was with Dad, basically. I think he groomed my game probably the most out of everyone. I've had little different things here and there with a few different coaches, which have always been handy, but I think Dad was coach of our team and always really passionate about it and willing to give up his shoulder and elbow quite often for me. So despite that being very sore and stuff, he just kept on powering along, and then the flingers came into it a couple of years ago, which he's been really grateful for. But
I think a lot of fathers around the world probably are.
Yeah, so he's been the biggest influence for me, definitely, over sort of a prolonged period.
Awesome. And now, how did your teenage years look then after you started playing? You started playing the father and son competition. When did you start taking it really seriously, and how often were you training?
I think when I was young, I just played everything. Like I was soccer, footy, tennis, basically anything I could. I was doing swimming. And I think soccer and footy was sort of winter, and then cricket was summer. And then I reckon when I was about 12 or 13, I kind of identified that cricket was what I wanted to do. I loved playing soccer and footy, but the main difference for me was I enjoyed training for cricket, where I didn't enjoy training for the other two. I just enjoyed playing on the weekends.
Part of it, yeah.
So I actually went to cricket training, and it didn't feel like a chore necessarily. Whereas with footy and soccer, I loved playing, but doing 5-star handball for an hour wasn't really my goal, I didn't think. So that's probably around maybe 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there. I went, cricket's what I want to do, and I made the state under 13s when I was 11, I think, and that was sort of my first taste of, maybe I'm actually not too bad at cricket, and then, made that again the following year, and I think after that, that's sort of been my path, and as I said, I've always trained because I've enjoyed it, not because anyone's told me to or I've been forced to. So I've been lucky in that regard.
Well, that's a massive part of being successful, I think, enjoying what you do. And so from that sort of 11, 12, and you were representing your state, did you start to train 3 or 4 times a week, 5 times a week? How did it look in that period?
I think Dad and I used to sort of find whichever indoor nets had the best reputation at the time in the local area. And in winter, we'd go there quite often. That'd probably be 2, 3 times a week if we could. And then in season, I'd have my club trainings, and then I'd always go for an extra couple of hits with Dad during the week and work on little things. So that was kind of how it worked out from probably through those years. And then 15 onwards, I probably realised I needed to sort of physically prepare myself as well. And that's also never really felt like a chore. Like, I've always enjoyed doing that as well. So from that point onwards, I've been able to combine that a bit. And obviously trying to find the balance is tough, but after a while and sort of learning about what you need to do to make sure you're ready, I think it gets easier and easier. And I still think I'm quite a way off compared to, if you look at blokes like Cameron White and stuff in the system, they know exactly what they need and what they need to do. But I think I'm getting better and better at sort of knowing what I need to do as the years go on.
And that's all you can ask of yourself at 20 is to just keep learning, and that'll come as you get older, no doubt. What age did you give up the other sports and just solely focus on cricket? And also what age, you mentioned maybe 15, but when did you think, okay, I want to make this as a career?
I think from when I was pretty young, I thought if I could, like, it always felt really far away though, but I was like, that's what I want to do. I was just sort of hopeful that I'd be good enough at some stage. I gave up footy actually sort of by accident. I got smacked in the head in year 11 and had a pretty severe concussion, which meant I missed the entire footy season. I got hit, I think, round 1 and couldn't play for the whole year. So then
head over the ball and knee?
Actually at training. So I got like sling tackled and someone's knee was running into the contest and it went bang in the side of my head. So that was a pretty rough experience, I guess. And then from there, I'd sort of prioritised cricket then anyway. And then from there I was like, look, it's probably not the best idea to try and get myself up for footy the next year. And school were really understanding about that. So they said no worries. And I ended up being the first 18 runner instead to sort of keep my fitness up and still be part of it despite obviously not being able to play.
Yeah, awesome. And then you mentioned the 13s. Were you in the Victorian underage system right the way through, 15s, 17s, 19s as well?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough that I got sort of picked all the way through. So that was always a good checking point and like a bit of a confidence booster for me, getting picked in those teams, because it sort of made me feel as though, you're still tracking along pretty well. And then, there's been a few bumps in the road, but sort of in the last year or two, it's accelerated pretty quickly. And I was actually talking to someone about it today, how much of a bit of a roller coaster the last year or two's been. Like, I've been sort of injured, then playing and done okay and got picked in teams that you just weren't expecting to be playing in. And it's all been quite a roller coaster, but an exciting one nonetheless.
Awesome, yeah, you've done incredibly well the last few years, which we'll get into in more detail shortly. But how did you progress through grade cricket as well? What age did you start playing grade cricket, and how did you then progress up to playing first grade and succeeding at first grade? Yeah,
so I went to Melbourne when I was 14. So started in the thirds there and played basically an entire season in the thirds. I was actually wicket keeping back then as well. So we had Sammy Harpo, who's one of my good mates. He was the seconds keeper and I was the thirds keeper for that year. So I snuck a couple of games in the seconds just by default because he had school cricket or something, which was handy. But started there, and then following season started in the seconds, and then season after that I was coming back from the head thing as well. So started in the seconds, eventually got a game in the first, and then was sort of in and out for a bit that year.
And what age were you in it there? 16?
16, yeah.
Okay, playing first grade?
Yeah, sort of in and out of the first grade then, and then the year after started in the first and have basically been playing first since.
And how did you find playing with men at that sort of level who don't take a step back and will be more than happy to knock your head off? Yeah. How did you find that as a 16-year-old? Yeah, it was pretty confronting. I remember a lot of the time when I was moving up the grades, you were sort of like, what am I doing here? Like, you'd rock into the room and all these blokes, even within a club environment that you'd looked up to over the past year or two, thinking, oh, gee, I'd love to play first one day. And then suddenly it hits you like you're batting 3 today and Kenty's opening the batting, and batted with Andrew Kent, who's a district legend back in Melbourne, for 20 overs or something. And facing Alan Wise as well, who was was this your debut?
Yeah, this was my debut,
okay. And at 16 or 15? 16?
I reckon I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 16. And yeah, so I was batting with Kenty facing Alan Wise at Central Reserve and just thinking, like, what is going on? Like,
This is awesome.
yeah, this is just like, it was just a
So
bit of
was
a
it
foreign
more
feeling.
excitement than fear?
I think it was a combination of the two. Like, I couldn't really, I've always been a nervous cricketer, so I was obviously nervous making the step up and stuff, but at the same time, it was one of those things where, like, this is still pretty cool. Like, I'm pretty happy that I'm here and hopefully make the most of it. But yeah, so that was one of those things where, as a young bloke, you always felt like sort of the little kid as well, with obviously being the younger guy in the squad. But yeah, it was definitely an experience that I needed to sort of develop and grow.
And then at what point did you start to feel like I'm good enough for this level? Being, like you say, you've always got a bit of self-doubt, and then you achieve things and you do well and you start to think, okay, I belong. What point did that come for you?
I think I got a 70 not out against Melbourne Uni, batting at 6 in a one day. That was the following season though. So I think that was the point for me in first 11 cricket where I was like, yep, I'm up to it. Like I think we were 4 for about 100 when I came in, and I was like, oh, if I could get sort of 30 or 40 to steady the ship, that'd be awesome. And then sort of got away with a few at the end and got myself to 70. And I think that was the time where I was like, yep, I feel settled now. Yep. I'm sort of part of the team. And as you said, it's one of those things where people can tell you you're good enough, you can try and tell yourself you're good enough, but until you actually do it, I don't think you fully believe
yourself,
it.
Yeah. Awesome. And then you dominated your 19s carnival a couple of years ago, which we'll talk about shortly, but how did you go on the national stage when you went away for the 15s and 17s? Did you dominate them, or were you just sort of middle of the road, or how did they go generally?
I was always, I think 15s and 17s particularly as top ages, I was always felt like I was going all right, but I made a lot of scores between sort of 20 and 40, I think, where I was like kind of frustrated because I feel good, like I want to sort of get on with it, but just kept on finding ways to get out. And because those tournaments sort of turn around so quickly, like it's kind of 5 or 6 hits and then over a 1 or 2 week period.
Don't have any time to figure things out.
Yeah, so it's sort of all just a bit of a rush and a bit of a blur whilst you're over there. And I remember going into the last 19s, as a bottom ager, I'd been ruled out with concussion 3 or 4 games in as well. So, and then gone to miss out on the World Cup squad. So I was a bit sort of disappointed about that. And then sort of went in the following year being like, I just really wanted that really strong carnival where you produce sort of performance after performance. And I was lucky enough to pull it off in the 19s with a bit of luck. But it was one of those things, I think, over the years you'd sort of learn, and I get frustrated when I get scores sort of where you get a start and then you sort of get out. So I was trying to be as ruthless as I could. And
awesome. And it was obviously showed with your results. You think you got 400s maybe on the bounce and then a 69. What did you do in the lead up to that carnival? What was your preparation and what was your mindset and what were you focusing on leading up to that carnival?
I think I'd actually been struggling a bit. I'd been hit in the head in sort of just at the start of the season, like off a stray ball off the side of a net had rebounded into the side of my head and I'd missed a couple of weeks, and I was sort of making my way back through Melbourne and batting sort of pretty low, batting 5, 6, 7 and sort of chipping in with scores of 15, 20 not out. And I sort of went over there and I was like, there's no point stressing about it, just go and enjoy yourself, because I just went, nah, I've had enough of these sort of injuries, like it's getting a bit frustrating. So I'm just going to go over there. I've got a lot of my best mates there. I get to captain like a really good bunch of guys and captain my state, so I'm just going to enjoy it and be part of the experience and enjoy what Adelaide had for me. And then went over there and I think I got 20 odd in the first game and sort of called Dad and was sort of saying, oh, maybe I'd do this tomorrow with my technique. And he goes, nah, what did you say before the tournament? And I was like, I said I'll just go over and sort of watch the ball and enjoy it.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and I went out the next day and sort of went with that mantra and got a few runs and thought, hang on a minute, maybe this actually isn't the worst theory in the world, and then was able to back it up obviously over a few days, and then thought, this is, I think, my way forward. It might have clicked for me.
I'm going all right. 400s in a row.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where I think, it just clicked and I just went, that's how I'm going to approach it from now on, because worrying about little things it's got me to a certain point, but I think it's going to be a stressful life as a cricketer if you're too caught up on them. So just kind of embrace what's in front of you.
And a big thing, I think, for any cricketer, and that's the thing I teach my athletes, is just trusting yourself and trusting your process. And it sounds like you were doing that and you were also enjoying yourself. Yeah. And I think something that you said before was being ruthless. Yeah. And following along that carnival as I do normally and sort of reading over it recently, you were not out in a lot of those games as well. And then to sort of back up the next day and not think, oh, I've made runs yesterday, I'm on fire, I'm the best. You really must have been ruthless. And speaking of Andrew Walton, he said that you were scoring hundreds for Melbourne either side of the carnival as well. So you had this incredible purple patch, and it wasn't very long ago. What was the hunger there, do you think? What was driving you? Was it the fact that you'd been out of the game for a while and you were just really wanting to play? Or
I think that definitely helped. It just gave me a bit of perspective on sort of what's important and why you sort of played cricket originally, like rather than getting caught up in the little things. And then it was just one of those things where you sort of got a taste of success and just thought, that's pretty good. That's a process that worked. Let's repeat it and do it again. And obviously I think it looks good statistically, but like it's one of those things where like luck was going your way. Like you'd hit a ball in the air that would get caught 8 times out of 10 and it just goes perfectly in the gap, and you'd sort of get those little moments in your innings where you'd go, that'd be like a bit of a reality check for you if you did get a bit ahead of yourself, and then it was back to your process and just keep backing yourself. And I think back to the thing before about having that success to really believe in it is sort of what I needed. And then obviously being able to back it up was sort of better in terms of me being able to build that confidence and going forward. And
just letting it flow and letting your physical skills just show without doubting yourself, I suppose. And then coming out of that carnival, there was a fair bit of press around what you'd achieved, having broken records and done so well. How did life change after that, and how did you then start dealing with expectation and pressure that came with being the next big thing in Australian cricket?
Yeah, it was pretty new to me, to be honest, like all the sort of attention and stuff. Like as I said, I was just kind of a young kid going away and I just wanted to enjoy myself for 2 weeks, and sort of I did have in the back of my head like I want that massive tournament, but at the same time I was sort of realistic about it and said, look, it's probably not going to be as big as you built it up in your head to be. Like as much as you want it, like you just got to trust your process and go about it the right way. But yeah, it was quite a whirlwind experience, I think. Like even coming back and just in the local area, like you became a bit of a rock star for a week or two because everyone's reading about it and sort of happy for you as well, because I had been through sort of the head traumas that were frustrating and had knocked me out of sport for a bit of time. So in that regard, it was really positive. But again, in terms of expectation and stuff, I've just always been a bit of a believer in if you do what you need to do to get ready and sort of give yourself the best chance, then the results will take care of itself. And it's more a process for me rather than a results thing. So yeah, process comes first and then results come as a matter of following a process that works and develops over time.
Absolutely, that's why I've named the podcast The Process of Success, because it is, everyone chases the success, which is the result, but it's the process that matters, it's the process that counts. And so sort of soon after that, I think it was about 6 weeks or so, you then debuted for Victoria in Sheffield Shield cricket, in first class cricket. How was that experience? You were still 18, were you? And
yes.
How did you find that? And it was against New South Wales at the MCG.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the New South Wales boys were going, well played, mate. Well done at 19s.
Yeah.
That must have been an interesting experience.
Yeah, that was probably like just the biggest mixture of emotions I've ever experienced in my life. Like I still remember on the Sunday I got a call from Ronnie, and I hadn't been part of the squad. I wasn't contracted in any way, and I got a call from Ronnie just saying, mate, if you can make it to training this week, like come along, but if you can't, that's fine also. So
was this Sunday just before you played or straight after the 19s?
No, the Sunday before I played.
So you'd after the 19s, they didn't immediately get you involved? You just went away back to grade cricket?
No, so it kind of worked out that was going into the Big Bash period, so Victorian cricket had sort of split up over that period. So I went back and, Ronnie called me, and Dad had told me he heard a whisper at the grade game the day before we were playing at that there was like an outside chance they were thinking about picking me, and I'm sitting there going, nah, like no way, that can't be right. Like it just, and he's going, yeah, I was surprised as well, but that's what they said. And I was like, oh no, that can't be right. And then got the call and said, yeah, I'll make it tomorrow, I'll be in there. And Ronnie came up to me, he sort of batted in the nets, and it was the first time
Can I just stop you there? What was the emotion like? What was the feeling like walking into training for the first time? Obviously, Victoria, you've got some huge names, some superstars. How did you feel as an 18-year-old going into that environment?
Yeah, I was pretty nervous, to be honest. Like it was just, you just felt a bit out of place, like having not been part of the squad and then halfway through the season just get plucked out to go and train basically. But everyone was really welcoming from sort of the first minute I was there, and I don't think I've ever been so nervous for like a training session in my life, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I'm sitting there going like, how am I meant to face these blokes? Like, they're by like 140, like what am I meant to do? Like, it's a bit easier facing blokes by 120 in the under-19s and stuff and in grade cricket, but sort of got in, had my hit and got in the rhythm of it.
Went
and
alright?
Yeah, like went okay, or thought I went okay, and I was sort of walked out and Ronnie's come up to me and gone, oh mate, you're in the squad of 14 for Wednesday's Shield game. I was sitting there going, you are kidding me. Like, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, it's probably one of those things where to reward me for sort of like a good patch, they'll have me in the squad, but I'll probably miss out. Like, they'll go with the experience. And then, yeah, the next day I had training again with the squad of 14 and came up to me afterwards, and I was sort of like, I knew it was either to tell me, oh, you're playing or you're not playing. And he's just come up and gone, yeah, so you'll be batting at 5 tomorrow. Good luck. And I've gone, oh my God.
Wow.
Like, and
Life changed incredibly in 6 weeks.
So I've even got the tingles now thinking about it again. And like, it was just one of those things where got on the phone to Dad as quickly as I could, giving him the you would not believe it. Like, get work off tomorrow. Like, I'm batting 5 in the Shield team. And he's just gone like, you are kidding me. Like,
wow.
And then I still remember that day, like I was trying to distract myself in the afternoon because I was just absolutely nowhere. Like, I was a mixture of like nervous, like excited, like, but just to the absolute extremes of sort of all ends. And
did you get any sleep that night?
I reckon about half an hour sleep. Like, I was just nowhere. Woke up at one of those ones where you're never fully asleep, and then woke up at about 4 and was just sort of lying there, just staring at the wall, like counting down the minutes until I had to go to the ground. And then sort of won the toss and were batting, which is obviously sort of my main while I was in the team. And just I was pretty nervous, but after I sort of got through the first couple of balls, I sort of went, nah, like.
And I'm really interested to know, because for my debut in List A cricket, I literally got my contract, and they said similar sort of scenario. They said you're going to play on Tuesday against Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And I think I actually said Sunday. You're going to play on Sunday against Bangladesh. It was a Friday. And on the Saturday night, I reckon I had 20 minutes sleep.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting on the balcony at Lord's waiting to bat, and I was falling asleep. And I really remember sort of falling asleep and waking myself up. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. I've got to be switched on. But when the wicket fell and I went out to bat, I was fine and didn't get any runs. But that was no excuse. But did you just have so much energy you were okay, or did you feel tired, or how did that feel then?
I think I was at 5, so when we were 1 wicket or no wickets down and 1 wicket down, I was nervous without being too bad. And then we lost the second wicket and I was next in, and that's when it all just hit me. Like, I just felt like throwing up for about half an hour. And then I still remember there was about 10 minutes to go before lunch, and I'm just sitting there like, please get through to lunch. Like, it gives me 40 minutes to sort of at least know I don't have to bat. And then like Whitey got knocked over, I think, and I'm out there with like 8 minutes to go before lunch.
Who were you batting with?
I was batting with Travis Dean, who I'd batted with in the Futures League before, so that was comforting.
Yep.
So I knew Deanie reasonably well before, but went out there, and I remember second ball, I got an absolute jaffer off Harry Conway, and I'm sitting there going like,
playing miss?
Yeah, playing miss, and I'm just sitting there going like, oh, what am I doing here? Like, this just isn't for me. And then, sort of got through lunch, and I still remember I had a group of about 15 mates that obviously
came to watch.
Yeah, they were probably just as sort of unassuming as I was, thinking, how is he playing? But they will come in, and I sort of clip one off my pads through mid-wicket for 1 or 2 to get off the mark, and you just hear this huge roar, and like at the G as well, when there's basically no one there, like
it's echoed right through.
Really loud. Yeah. So that sort of was a bit of a relieving moment. It was like, oh, you're away.
Was that before or after lunch?
That was just before lunch.
So you had the lunch break, knowing you've got a few first class runs.
Yeah, so I was on like 2 or something at lunch, and I'm like, it's the hardest 2 I've ever made, but you know what? I'm off.
They can't ever take that away from you.
Yeah.
And were New South Wales getting into you?
I was honestly expecting them to get into me more.
Yeah.
Early on, they were reasonably quiet, probably because they knew I was just a nervous wreck anyway. But then I sort of lasted a little while after lunch, and after that, started copping a bit.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like that. I was actually expecting smarter sledging, to be honest. It was all very childish, which was a bit disappointing in a way. I'd sort of built up this expectation that everyone had come up with these real smart sledges that had
doesn't change between any level, I suppose.
So it was just real childish stuff, but anyway.
There you go. You dealt with it.
Yeah.
And then progressing. At what point did you score the big 100, and when did you? And was that the moment you thought, I belong at this level?
Yeah, I think so. So obviously, I'd made a few in the Futures League the week before, and sort of knew there was a spot opening up because Pete was going to South Africa with the Test squad. So it was one of those things, like a lot of people say cricket's a lot about timing, and I sort of just timed my run well where I was sort of in form when he was leaving. So came back in, and I sort of noticed the difference in feeling from one year to the next, even though I hadn't played another Shield game in between. It was kind of like, I've been around the squad, I've done all the pre-season, I've played sort of a body of cricket where I feel like I'm ready to give it another go.
Did you get, after the first game, your debut, did you get left out the next game?
So I got concussed during that game fielding.
Right.
And then, so I didn't bat in the second innings, and then was ruled out of that and didn't play again for the season. So that was another one of my concussions. But I wouldn't have played anyway because Finch and Stoinis were coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so the next year you felt a bit more at ease, and then Pete left, you're in form.
Yeah.
And you went back into the side.
Yeah, so I was still nervous and stuff, but it was just that different. It was just that tiny bit more confidence that you had. You know what? Like I feel like I belong a little bit, and then to obviously get 100 was huge as a bit of a confidence booster coming straight back in. But I think going into that game it was a bit of a different feeling. Like you still had that really nervous energy, but by the time I'd sort of got to 20 or 30, I was thinking, you know, like it's bloody tough out here and it's a real challenge. But I actually remember getting to 20 and going, if I can get to 20, I can get to 40. And then if I can get to 40, I can get to 60. And then sort of just building slowly in that regard. And you still felt like a bit of a young kid out there, like they were better than you and you were the one that it was on you to prove that you were up to the standard. And I still felt a little bit of that, but sort of as the innings went on, I started to grow a bit more in confidence, and then obviously lucky enough to get 180 odd in the end, which was huge from a personal point of view. It was a bit of a confidence booster going forward.
And I think something that's evident in your scores is that you get big hundreds, and that's what I do think stands out from the greatest players to the not so good players. What's your beliefs around scoring 100? Like a lot of people get out around 100 because they feel like they've achieved and whatever. Have you always thought I've got to score big hundreds, or what's your thought process around that?
I just think if you've gone that far, it's just one of those things where I don't ever feel satisfied, I don't think, with the amount of runs I'm on. So regardless of whether I'm on 5 or whether I'm on 105 or 155, it's never enough. Like you just feel like, well, it's better being out here and you're benefiting the team more, and you don't really have an excuse to go, like, why should you really go out? Unless they bowl a really good ball, you probably shouldn't be getting yourself out when you're on that score. So it's always been about keeping myself pretty level-headed all the way through an innings, I think. Yeah. And going back to that thing, I think I learnt probably from the frustration of probably between 15 and 17, I made a lot of scores, maybe including school cricket, between 20 and 60 or 70. And that frustration of, well, you look good for 60, but
didn't win
there
the
were
game
and there were so many more out there. So I think from that point of view, I guess I've learnt I just want to be really ruthless, and I want to be that guy that when he does get in, he goes big. And I think that's just, I don't know, I've just always, over the last few years, had that hunger, and it's obviously helped me, but I'd like to get more consistent at it. But yeah, I think that's just always been it, just never being satisfied with how many I've made.
And is that something that transfers across to your training as well? Like, how does the 20-year-old next big thing in Australian cricket, how do you keep getting better? What drives you? What's your motivation right now?
I think I've always had, like, especially over the last couple of years, I've set myself almost unachievable goals to the point where I go, it seems unrealistic, but it means that I've always got something to strive towards. So I have this little mantra that I want to make 30 Test hundreds for Australia, and it is like fairly unrealistic, but at the same time, it gives me a reason to get up in the morning, gives me a reason to go for a run, it gives me a reason to do my gym properly, and then when I'm training, you can always get better because I haven't made anywhere near. I've made 0 Test hundreds for Australia, so I've got quite a, I guess a gap to bridge. Is that the right term?
Bridge the gap, yeah.
Bridge the gap, that's the one.
Yeah.
But so I've just got to sort of work hard in that department, and that's always been my thing.
Is that something that's come in more recently?
I've never had that specific goal. Like, it's always been I want to play for Australia successfully. Like, that's been the dream, I guess. But I was actually speaking to someone about that, and that's when they said, try and make it more specific for yourself. Like, don't just have a dream. What's your actual goal? And I said, well, I like to push myself, and I just think, yeah, that'll be it. So that's sort of my thing that I'm striving towards. And I guess having a year exposed at first class level, you kind of learn what you need to work on a lot quicker than you would if you were just playing grade cricket or just playing under 19. So that's also been a massive help, having 1 year in the system now. I know sort of the areas of my game that I think I really need to hone in order to be successful, and hopefully if things go well, go somewhere near achieving that goal in the future.
I think that's such a great story to hear, your big dream and your big goal, and having clarity around that. I think so many people, they say, I want to play for Australia or I want to play for Victoria, and as soon as they achieve that goal that they've been working to for so long, they then get there and they're like, okay, what's next? And subconsciously they've achieved it, and they don't then take any more big action. So to say, I want 30 Test hundreds, you're not going to settle until you actually tick off that 30th Test 100, and that is a pretty good career at the end of it. So I commend you for that. I think that's fantastic, and hopefully it inspires some of the younger listeners and followers and viewers to really think big and push yourselves, because like you just said there, it's your reason why. It's your reason, why do I want to get up and go for a run? Why do I want to hit more balls? Because I want to score 30 Test hundreds, not because, I don't know. It's having that clarity, I think, is massive, and thank you for sharing that. Now, have you done any form of mental conditioning? Is that something you've worked on at all?
In bits and pieces. That's one of the things I've sort of put on my goals for this season, to do more in that field. So I've actually already started seeing the psychologist once a week, and it's a resource that we have, and I guess should be, well, you don't have to use it, but I feel like could benefit me in the long run. So I've actually just been in with him today, at about an hour and a half chat with him about certain things to do with my game and stuff. So,
and what sort of things were you focusing on? What sort of things go on in that? A lot of people watching, most people watching, don't have access to a psychologist, don't understand what an elite player talks to a psychologist about. If you're happy to share, you don't have to, but what sort of things do you talk about? What sort of things can you be working on mentally?
So it's just mainly about developing like little processes for different facets of the game. So if it's fielding or if it's batting, like I've got a set routine that I use, and it's about sort of identifying that and I guess making it real. Everyone will probably do something subconsciously that they don't realise they do in between balls, but it's probably about making that sort of real and making that repeatable and training that and honing it in and making sure it relates to you. So that's one of the fields I've been working on. And then also sort of little things like maximising your concentration. So little things like in between balls, giving yourself that time to give yourself a mental rest. So instead of thinking about the game in between balls where you're almost wasting mental energy, because there's psychological evidence to back this up, but there's a certain like amount of concentration you have basically in a day, and the more you use,
sap your energy.
So it was one of those things where it's like, especially in 4-day cricket, where obviously you're aware of the game situation, and it applies to 1-day cricket as well, but having that sort of clarity of mind when you need it the most is probably the thing that I want to try and maximise as much as I can. And I think that's kind of the field that I'm going with in the psychologist, and with the psychologist, and then other things. I know not everyone has access to a psychologist, so it's not as easy, but even little things like uni and your personal life and stuff, it's just good to talk to someone about it, and sort of makes cricket, I guess, easier if other facets of your life are going well as well, and you've got a good life balance. So just trying to achieve that and work in that regard, because if it all becomes too cricket centric, that can get a bit too much as well, I think. So it's
absolutely, and that's a question I do ask all of, I guess, how do you switch off from cricket? Are you at uni?
I've just so I was at uni, and it was just getting too tough to get there, and I was missing too many classes, so I've just signed up for an online thing through Open Unis Australia.
So I got a degree through them.
Yeah, so I'll be starting that next week. So
awesome. What are you studying?
I'm doing business.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm actually I've never been excited to study in my life, but I'm actually excited about that getting underway.
Are you doing one unit every few months, or how are you doing structuring it?
Doing 2 units per like block. So they've got, you probably had it as well, like the weird system where it's not
3 months, no break.
Yeah. So that sort of thing where there's not really semesters like you normally.
And will you keep that up in the season? Will you not bring it back to maybe one
I might bring it back to one, but I'll still try and tick it off because I think that's going to be key for me in terms of switching off. Because I reckon another thing I learnt being in the system is being away a lot. It's really easy when you're away to just focus on cricket because that's why you're there.
So much time in a hotel and whatever to think. And
so I'll be in Perth, and the only reason I'm in Perth is to play cricket, really. And then when it's time to switch off, you're still thinking about the game. You're thinking about, oh, what if I do this? What if I do that? So I think that'll give me a good reason to hopefully switch off maybe at nights and stuff, even in between 4-day games and stuff. So that'll be really handy.
Awesome. And now you're actually a published writer.
I knew Waltz would bring this
up. You wrote a post on Manchester United for the Raw.
Yeah.
Is that something you enjoy? You enjoy writing? And how did that come about?
I probably enjoyed it more a few years ago, and recently I've got more into business in terms of that kind of stuff from an academic sense. So when I was coming out of school, I wanted to be a journalist, but that quickly vanished as soon as I'd started the course. I just didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't really for me. So, but I'm very passionate about my sports team. So I guess that gives me a way to vent my frustration if things aren't going so well. And
it's been a frustrating few years being a Pies fan.
Yeah. So Twitter's another sort of platform that I kind of use sparingly. Yeah. Not to necessarily vent anger, but more say sarcastic things if my team aren't going so well. But I think it's just, I've always been, that's another thing that switches me off from cricket. Like, I'm a huge soccer fan, I'm a huge footy fan, so that keeps me attached to sort of other things other than cricket, which is always handy. And always following your favourite players. I got Pendles in my super coach a couple of weeks ago, so always following stuff like that. And
nice. And so, what have you read any good books, and what other things do you do to sort of upskill yourself and learn? Because it sounds like it's something that does interest you. Yeah. So I'm not a huge reader, if I'm honest, but I've read Sir Alex Ferguson's book on leadership, which was awesome. Was good, very good. Yeah. So that sort of just gave a bit of an overview without going into obviously specific details of what he did, but his sort of key pillars for success, because obviously all soccer fans will know like what he did is basically unprecedented and just incredible. Especially never done again, especially in the modern day with sort of managers changing every 2 weeks, it seems like. But sort of reading through that, and almost the thing I got out of it the most was how simple he almost kept it. Like, all it was about getting to know people within the club, learning people's names, like finding out about people's stories and things like that, and then sort of working out how to manage them after learning about them and taking the time to get to know someone. So I just found that basic, but kind of, you don't see many people doing it, I don't think. And even within sporting teams, like, you'll have different things, like the way I talk to Trem, who has been on as well, like, will be different to the way I talk to someone else, and just about learning those little things about people and knowing what makes them tick and hopefully being able to help them out in some way. So, he's been a huge motivational tool for me in a way, the way he was able to do that with Man United, who are one of my teams. So, awesome. Yeah. Great way to learn from other people you never have connection to, but who have done great things is through reading. Now, as a batting coach and obviously still a cricketer myself, I understand the importance of a mental routine, and especially as the ball's being delivered. You just mentioned about switching off your concentration in between balls. What is your process at the moment, and what's your process when you're going well? How do you physically and mentally, what's your routine? So when I'm batting, my main thing is, I try and switch off as soon as the ball's been delivered and it's sort of out of play. So as soon as you've run or whatever, it's gone to the fielder and they're passing it around the field. So that'll genuinely go into thinking about something ridiculous, like thinking about what my dog would be doing or what my mate would be doing or something along those lines. So just a complete break from the game, I guess. And then when I do switch back on, it's getting the 2 V's of my grip right. So I look up like that. That's a trigger for you? Yep. So that's like the first, like, all right, time to switch back on. And then sort of plant my back foot where I want it to be planted, have my front foot where I want it to be planted, and then tap. I don't actually know how many times I tap, but sort of tap until I'm comfortable, pick the bat up, and then it's all focus on the bowler. And I do tell myself, watch the ball, and then that's still, I'm probably not at maximal concentration yet, and then I try and just ruthlessly focus, I guess, on the point of release just as it's coming out for that sort of millisecond to make sure. So the mind saying watch the ball, and the eyes are focusing all the way in the run-up, or as they get into their load-up, or at what point do you sort of really try and narrow your focus?
I reckon it's about halfway through their run-up where I just go, all right, there's the ball. And then what I do is it can sort of confuse me a bit as a batter if they've got like a bit of a unique action and you kind of lose the ball. So I try and identify like a box where the ball's being released most of the time, which obviously stays consistent for most bowlers. And
do you just do that when they've got a weird action, or all the
no,
time?
I do it all the time, but
Okay.
because people have weird actions,
Yep.
I've sort of started it, because I used to, if I tried to watch the ball the whole way and then lost it, because that'd almost like, I guess, hamper your concentration a little bit.
Yep.
So I get the box, usually with this on the side screen, there'll be a spot where most of the time it's coming out of there, and that's how I try and watch it basically, instead of follow it all the way around and up.
Awesome. Now, a big thing for kids, or anyone really, is dealing with mistakes. How have you, over your career so far, learnt to deal with a mistake in the moment? Play and miss, maybe you get dropped. And also on top of that, how have you dealt with sort of the setbacks, the injuries, and the sort of times when things have been a bit tough?
Yeah, I think mistakes in an innings is one of those things where I used to get hung up on them more than I do now, and you just sort of, I don't really know how I deal with it. I just kind of find a way to move on. Like probably going back to my process again and thinking about something completely away from the game and realising that you can't change it. So if you had a swing at a sort of wide one that you didn't want to, well, you got away with it, move on, go think about something, and then get back into that routine. In terms of like setbacks injury-wise, it has been tough at stages, if I'm honest. Like there's been some pretty frustrating times where I've been sitting there thinking like, oh, well, what's next? Like especially with a thing like concussion, where a lot of it is about rest and trying not to do much. So that has been difficult. But I guess when you do sort of get on the recovery path, it's one of those things where you've got something to strive for again. So that initial period's always tough when you're not allowed to do a heap and you're kind of a bit stuck. But then moving forward, once like you are back on the recovery path, it's sort of that goal of getting back. And then again, in a weird way, I'm almost appreciative for them because it's given me that perspective where I can go, why'd I play cricket originally? Because I enjoy it and I enjoy succeeding at it. I enjoy winning. And then, getting back to those
even more
basics.
hungry when you're there.
Yeah, exactly. So
now, we're going to have to start wrapping up, but the last few questions, what's next for you now? What is the next few months leading up to, obviously, the start of the season in October? What do the next few months hold for you? Yeah,
so I'll just be around the Vic setup. So just down at the new facility at the Junction Oval, which is awesome. So just down there, training basically until we go to Mooloolaba, I think, for a pre-season trip in early September. And then, hopefully if things are going okay, get picked in the JLT squad and see what happens from there.
Awesome. Now, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It's a tough one.
On the spot. Well, what sort of advice would you offer anyone listening or watching?
I reckon the best bit of advice I've ever received is when things are going well, you're never as good as you think you are, and when things are going bad, you're never as bad as you think you are.
Brilliant. Very, very good. Yeah. Now, what's your definition of success?
My definition of success is if I follow my process, I've been successful regardless if I make a duck or 100.
The process of success. There we go.
That was not scripted either. That's actually true.
Well done. Yeah. All right, finally, why do you play cricket?
Because I love it.
Yep, that's a simple answer. And how can people follow you? You on Instagram, Twitter? What's your handles?
I'm on Instagram. Post a lot of stuff about my dog. I'm getting a new dog as well soon, so that he'll get a fair bit of airtime. Yeah. So that's just my name, Will Pucovski.
Yep.
And then Twitter, I think it's Will Pucovski as well.
Okay.
Either Will Pucovski or Will Pucovski 10. But
all right. Well, we'll link it in. We'll get it off you, and we'll link it in the show notes so everyone can follow you and follow your journey. But Will, thanks so much for your time, mate.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciated you sharing your story and passing on some great insight to our community. So thank you.
No worries at all. Been a pleasure.